Once again, it's Tea or Coffee, and like I said earlier, today is World Autism Awareness Day, and our topic for today is autism spectrum disorder. We have a guest here who's an authority on autism spectrum disorder, and let's hear her. Thank you very much for joining us on the show.
Yes.
So, on today's topic, autism spectrum disorder is a very peculiar topic in our nation today, and generally in the world. But so many people do not know a lot about autism. Can you educate us what exactly is autism?
Autism is a neurodevelopmental disorder, and what that means is that it's a disorder that somehow affects the brain and impacts on how a child develops, through the world. People tend to confuse autism with disorders like Down syndrome, where you can see physical features on the person, to differentiate that, but it's really not the same thing, So it's more of a language and a processing, disorder, a disorder that also affects someone's communication, because communication also stems from language as well. So basically, that's the summary of what autism is.
Okay, so let's take it step by step. What are the symptoms, for autism? Okay,
so we have cognitive symptoms.
Okay.
So the person's ability to relate with other people as well. Then we have behavioral symptoms as well. The thing about autism is it's on a spectrum. There are different levels to it. Someone might have a milder form of it and someone might have a severe form of autism. So it ranges. So someone with a behavioral problem, for example, would engage in what we call stemming behaviors, repetitive behaviors. They repeat themselves, they babble, use the same words.
Yes.
For example, one time a father of an autistic son said it sounded like his son was a broken record. There are peculiar behavioral manifestations as well. You find that they walk on their tippy toes. When they walk, when you walk with your feet flat on the floor. You notice that people with autism, children with autism, tend to walk on their tippy toes as well. Yes. There's also behaviors wherein, some of them hit their head on the wall, just keep hitting themselves, So it's for them, it's a way to kind of increase that sensory, processing that they're struggling with. So they just, keep hitting themselves as well. Want to feel something. Now, on the other hand, there are people that are extra sensitive. Bright light affect them. Loud noises affect them. I can look at this bright light now and not necessarily feel anything because my brain can, process it and filter out what goes in and what stays out. But for someone with autism, their brains have just been, wired in such a way that they're unable to filter that. So they're immensely affected by that light, as by those lights and the noises, and that leads to what we call the tantrums or the meltdowns that are most often associated, with autism. Now, another thing about autism is because it's on a spectrum, there are some people that are non-verbal as well. Because language, in as much as we're talking about sensory processing, language is also another issue. The ability to speak can be quite limited. So how do they express themselves to you to let you know that they're being affected by whatever it is that is going around them? So that tantrum, we say that every behavior serves a function. To you, it might look like a problem, but for them, it's to get attention to themselves so you can try to understand where they're coming from. Socially as well, some of them tend to be socially awkward, still stemming from communication and language deficit. One of the things that is very peculiar to autism is what we call the theory of mind.
Okay.
And that is the ability to attribute mental states, to other people, to think about what other people are feeling, to put yourself in other people's shoes. And for so many people on that spectrum, that is a difficulty. They are very, very literal. Sometimes because they come off as awkward, you find that so many people don't want to be friends with them because they're literal. They say those that are verbal can literally say anything that's on their mind. Their filters are not, well put together. It's not a problem in the sense that people with autism they have extraordinary abilities. They're just wired differently. As a parent, you have to note what exactly is my child adverse to. What exactly do I do that makes them, throw tantrums or have meltdowns or, start exhibiting that steaming behavior? You have to be really, really observant.
Yes, observant.
Food is another issue. You find that some of them can't deal with certain textures. And even we neurotypicals have that issue. But then sometimes you can just be like, yeah, it's all right, I'll manage. But for them, they can't really deal with it. So clothing, food, how they react, to things around you at home, would inform you on how you would deal with that, that behavior that they exhibit.
So can you give us like a short list or a number of other diseases that we can look out for to know, okay, this may not be autism, or this may actually be another one? And again, can you say something about treatment of autism?
Okay, Asperger's used to be a milder form of autism.
Okay.
So for people with Asperger's, their major problem was always social skills.
Okay.
In terms of verbally and in terms of behavior, they tend to be milder. Okay. But their major issues were usually social skills. But now, DSM-5, which I said is the authority book, has lumped everything together as autism spectrum disorder. Oh. Autism is a neurodevelopmental disorder. Down syndrome is more of a genetic syndrome.
Okay.
And like I said, it has physical distinguishable features. It is not I have a problem, I'm going to go to the hospital, they're going to prescribe drugs for me. If I take it for a period of time, then I'm going to be good. It's a condition that one will live with for all their lives, So the best bet is to learn to manage it effectively. And that is knowing what affects you or what affects the person who's dealing with autism and trying to find ways to mitigate it. So there's a lot of therapy involved. So for those that are non-verbal, we have speech and language therapy for them. We have occupational therapy. Occupational therapy uses water therapy, uses behavioral therapy. Under behavioral therapy, one of the most prominent ways that people use to manage the symptoms or manage the behaviors is what we call applied behavioral analysis. And applied behavioral analysis is a form of behavioral therapy that seeks to increase the likelihood of a positive behavior and decrease the likelihood of a negative one. So like we said, all behavior serves a function, So if your autistic child does something that, is good, you find a way to reinforce that behavior.
Yes.
You give them something that propels them to continue to act in that way. So observation. Does my child like blue? Blue it is. We're all going to blue. We'll paint his room blue.
You ask them to pick.
When you're doing therapy for them, you use something that is, and that as well is a reinforcer. Oh, we're going to do therapy today. Blue. I'm good. I'm ready to go. So you have to observe. You have to know what works for this person with autism.
Okay. I want us to focus on the questions that we have on Facebook now. This is saying, is there an age range relating to autism?
It's not an age range because, like I said earlier, it's a condition that one deals with, till from birth to death. But children, because children are growing and there are certain milestones as a child that you're supposed to hit. Certain things that you're supposed to be doing. At 3 months, at 6 months, at 18 months, for example, language is supposed to be developing and all those things. So as a parent, if you notice that, these milestones are not being met, if you notice the tippy-toeing behavior that I mentioned, the aversion to, high levels of, sound, light, etc., that's another issue. But children tend to be diagnosed between 3 to 5. Yes. But, in more developed countries, you can start noticing behaviors at like 18 months.
All right. Thank you so much, Ayomide, for coming on the show. It's been quite informative and educative, trust me.
Thank you for staying tuned. And once again, that was Ayomide Ogunkeye, who we had with us on autism to give us all the information we needed. We are still here with you on Tea or Coffee. I'm Fawn and this is Madupe. And today we have a guest with us to talk more about autism. Please, Madupe.
Of course, we have Omotoke Olo, and she is an educationist. You're welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes. Okay, we're talking about autism. Today is World Autism Awareness Day.
Yeah.
And I would like to know, what are the educational requirements for children living with autism? Okay,
so basically in Nigeria, for you to get a child with autism educated, there is a particular kind of form that they give. It's called IEP, Individualized Educational Plan. So it's expected that if you are taking a child with autism to school, the child already have some set goals that he or she is to achieve. So you have it in form of, for cognitive, this is what we want the child to achieve. For academics, this is what we want the child to achieve. For speech, this is what we want the child to achieve. So it guides everyone who works with a child that, for this aspect of this child, this is what we are achieving for this term.
Talking about having an all-inclusive society, and then there will be children living with autism will be in the class, and then other students will be in the class, and you want to ensure that the child living with autism understands every single thing that you are teaching everybody. So how can you do that, and it won't be as if you are segregating that child, putting that child aside?
Okay, so there is something called child support or caregivers.
Okay.
So most schools adopt this method of having somebody in the classroom with a child who supports the child.
When a child is in that kind of environment and you're different, how, because autistic children have problem focusing, right? So how do you teach an autistic child to focus in the midst of all that going on? Because they're kids, so all the children will be making noise, loud sounds, and you know, so many things, and they have to
do well with sounds.
Exactly. So how do you teach an autistic child to focus?
Okay, so it is not like the child is 5 years old. We are just taking this child to an inclusive school immediately. No.
Okay.
Like it's said that there are therapies that you've been taking the child to. The child has been going to maybe a special center before. So the child is already like able to be mainstreamed or included in the special needs school before you take the child there. You know, there are also other factors you have to consider. Not that parents should just wake up one day and try to take their child to an inclusive school. No. We also have to be sure that the child is ready to be included in an inclusive school.
Is it possible that some children are just not very educationally sharp as others, and it may not really be autism? So what tips or what symptoms, or how do I know for sure
that striking symptom?
Yes, that this is autism I am looking at, and I should approach the child's parents and talk? Because, you know, it may not be autism, and you may go talk to the parents, and, you know, you may go, or, so how do I know?
We are not a doctor. I am not a doctor. I can't see a child and assume 100% that the child has autism. So what I can do is, oh, ma'am, I noticed that this in your child. I think you should take the child for assessment. I've not said the child. So it's very important. And I see people making this mistake almost all the time, because you've heard tips about autism, you've heard behaviors to look out for, you've heard things that they do, how they react to light or sound or other things, or maybe how they are pricky with their food or clothing. And you see a particular child exhibiting those symptoms, then you are quick to like, ma, I think your child has autism. Go on. No, we don't do that. You need to take that child for assessment. And the doctor has to make that recommendation. In fact, most schools will not accept your child if you don't come with that doctor recommendation.
Now, to have an all-inclusive society, there must be things put in place. Now, you've talked about having health support in the classroom. Aside that, what else can the educational system put in place to ensure that every child living with autism gets quality education, as well as every other normal student?
Okay, I think for Nigeria as a country and for our educational system, I think we are still a long way from achieving an inclusive education. But that does not mean it's not possible. It is actually very possible. So we start from the root cause, which is the teachers. So we cannot take a child with autism to a school if the teachers in the classroom or in the schools are not well trained to actually handle these children. So it will just be you dumping the child in the midst of nothing. The child is not learning, people are not learning, and the child is also maybe disturbing other students. So, and that is why it is important that every teacher have these skills. I've been with parents that they take their children to a particular school, and the first thing the school will say is, oh, sorry, we don't accept children like this. We don't work with children like this. And that is a form of stigma. You know, they tell you, no, our school is not made to work with children like, but it's not supposed to be so. The school is a place where children are supposed to learn. So they should be open to accept every child. But that is not possible if teachers do not have the set skills to train this. So we start from teachers training. We start from reviewing our curriculum. Our curriculum patterned for children with disability. What provisions do we have for them? We have Nigeria policy on education that says all child must be educated. But have we taken into consideration children with special needs, which our regular classroom might not be conducive for them? how many government schools have sensory rooms that they can take children with disability or children with special needs or any other disability too?
Thank you very much.
Moteke Oluwo for joining us on the show today. It's been educative listening to you. Do you like the video you just watched? Then you should click on the like button and move over to click on the subscribe button. Also, you should click on the bell to get notified anytime we drop amazing episodes of Tea or Coffee for you. Adios.